This is TWiT.
So what do you have here? This actually was breaking news this morning, but Meta has a new Quest coming out. And I'm curious to know if you're going to be grabbing one of these and throwing it on your face.
So what's fascinating here, or I guess it's not fascinating, what's predictable here is that, of course, on Monday, Apple is rumored to be announcing its mixed reality headset. And
the timing of it all.
So Meta, which of course is the Facebook parent company, pulled out an Instagram video of all things. Zuckerberg posted on Instagram. And then shortly after that, Instagram post went out with a video and a little write-up. Then Facebook's blog, or excuse me, I guess Meta's blog, but it is still at about.fb.com. So put out the sort of understanding of what this next headset is. And they're really pushing the mixed reality aspect of this headset. They call it meta reality, and it's something that is available in the Quest 2 that's available right now, and in, of course, the Quest Pro that's available. In the Quest 2, you have these lower quality cameras that can show you black and white view of what's in front of you. And for a long time, it was not super involved. You would tap twice on the side of the headset and then it would cut to that view, and you could walk around while keeping the headset on and see things that were around you, but it wasn't very high detail. It wasn't sort of a one-to-one, if you can think of it that way, view of what you were seeing. And so one way that I had hoped to use that was if there was a service I was trying to log into on the Quest 2, what I had to do was take off the headset, get the next 6 digits of the password, put the headset back on, type them in, take off the headset again, memorize the next 6, do over and over, because with that black and white view, bright screens and frankly displays in general did not show the text very well at all. So I couldn't keep the headset on. It was messy. It was not good. And just in general, to try to call that mixed reality is not realistic. Now, the Pro came along and I did get to try that out. Was that Ask the Tech Guys at the time?
I think it was.
Yeah. What was that? Was it? It was, it was the Tech Guys. Yeah. So it was right before we made the change to the new show. So it was still the radio show.
Got it.
And I did a sort of demo of the system, and its mixed reality was better for sure. And now they're trying to improve that even more. They have what's called high fidelity color pass through. So this is going to give you that actual color view of what's in front of you. They're also touting a new Snapdragon processor that has 2 times the GPU power of the Quest 2. They're talking about how it's slimmer in design, quote, 40% slimmer optic profile. I'm assuming that means that the sort of portion that goes out in front of your face, the optic profile is slimmer. Yeah.
Flatter,
so a little closer to your face.
Doesn't project out as much.
Exactly. So it's maybe not going to weigh you down as much.
Yeah. That's welcome.
Yeah, exactly. The touch controllers have been updated as well. They now don't have that ring around the top of them. So that Meta says that that's because they got the feedback that could kind of make people feel a little like they were a little trapped inside of it. So when they were moving their hand, they would hit the ring. So they wanted to make it feel a little bit more free. So they've updated that. Yeah, I didn't have that issue either. And they're going to continue selling the Quest 2 and Quest Pro alongside the Quest 3. So all of the models will be available. What else is kind of interesting is that they've announced that on June 4th, they will once again lower the Quest 2's price to $299.99, so $300 USD for the 128 gigabyte model of the Quest 2.
And that's the day before WWDC?
That's the day before, yeah. It is, isn't it? So it is, I'm happy that they're doing that because I thought I was really annoyed by the fact that they had raised the price.
Yeah, me too.
For the same, they didn't improve it. It was the same device. They just raised the price on it.
I know.
That does not compute.
No.
I was really bothered by that. But Now they're bringing it back down. And while they're bringing it back down, there's also going to be a software update that somehow is going to improve GPU and CPU performance on both the Quest 2 and the Quest Pro. So the headsets we already have will also be seeing an improvement to CPU and GPU performance. You get somebody in there who knows how to properly tax the CPU and GPU and do it in a better way, and that can make those little performance improvements. So this is kind of a full-featured or a full set of announcements from Meta, not just for the Quest 3, but for the whole suite of offerings that the company has. When they talk about Meta reality, they are really, it's interesting to see how much of the focus is on that, because with the Quest Pro, the thing that I didn't like about the Quest Pro is that the bottom of the Quest Pro is open to your eyes. And they had these little magnetic things that you could clip into them. They're like silicone and they're magnetic. And it would sort of guard the bottom of your eyes, but still light was getting through. And I felt that kind of pulled me out of the experience. And I thought that was an odd choice for the Quest 2. It feels like what they're trying to do with this Quest 3 is keep you fully immersed in VR, but then also provide the opportunity for augmented reality by creating that full color pass through. So they have a little game that they show in I don't even know if it's a game per se. It looks like a game, but it could just be a concept of what looks a lot like a Dungeons and Dragons game. And so the person has the headset on, and then on their table in augmented reality is a full kind of game board with little characters, and they've got a roll of the dice that they can do as they are. Yeah, here we can perhaps show that part of it. We just switched back. So anyway, it will be interesting to see how the Quest 3 compares to the Quest Pro, meaning I'm curious how the lineup is going to fit into what's already there, or rather how the new model is going to fit into the lineup that already exists, right? Because if we've got the Quest 2, which is kind of the every person's Quest, that is the most accessible, most cost
$300
effective.
basically.
Yeah. And then you've got the Quest 3, which is all of this next generation stuff. It's got new handsets, blah, 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 blah. Where does the Quest Pro fit in? What Meta suggests is that the Quest Pro is meant for work, that it is a model that people will use when they are trying to get work done. And so I guess you have...
which not many people are using a VR headset for work right now. It's just not.
Yeah. They're like, well,
not happening.
It's got the eye tracking and this and that and the other. So you're going to be able to, look like you're the real person in meetings. And no, I don't know. I don't think so.
I think it's a stretch.
Yeah. But
yeah.
The last thing I'll say about it is that they are really touting, and I think this is where they actually do have a point, the huge library of games and content that exists
for sure
for the Quest.
That's I think a big strength for Oculus for the Quest devices right now, is that library is pretty solid, and easy to get lost in if you're in the store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so many titles coming on this. They had a kind of a games announcement, and I don't know if you've ever power washed in real life, but it's really satisfying.
Oh my gosh, I love power washing.
And there's Power Wash Simulator is a game that's coming.
I didn't know it hasn't come out yet, but it will be. It's
coming to MetaQuest, I think, for the first time. Like you can get it in other
That I'll actually
VR.
play. I haven't picked up my VR headset in so long.
Yeah.
My Quest, I probably need to charge it so the batteries don't start losing their juice.
Yeah. My daughter has asked a couple of times in the last couple of weeks to play VR, and it had been, very, very distant since the time before. So she's starting to kind of pick up on it again. And I find myself, because we've got the first one and we've got the second one. And the first one, of course, at this point is totally outdated and kind of slow, and they don't even really support it and everything. But I love playing VR with her. But the last 2 times she's asked, I've not felt like I would feel very good if I did. And so I wanted to pass on it, which I think is just such a huge hurdle for anything VR. It's like, you got to be feeling great to throw that on your face. And it's just not always the case. But I am really interested or curious, like the question that you posed. Basically, it's 3 price tiers. It's $300 for the Quest 2, $500 for the Quest 3, and then $1,000 for the Quest Pro. And I don't believe the whole get work done thing with the Pro. Like I think that's a pipe dream. And
I've used the Quest Pro, and I will say the tracking on it is quite impressive. So after the day that I did the demo here in the studio, Leo let me take it home for a couple of days. Maybe it was like a week. And I played, I think the game's called I Expect You to Die.
Oh, yeah.
And in my space, without having to rearrange a bunch of stuff, it was able to put the little traps all over the room. And as I was moving through the space, it wasn't as if they were going and sort of changing locations. I was impressed by that. I didn't get ill playing that game because the tracking was good enough. But still, when I thought, because it's so good, because the refresh rate is higher, because the optics are better, let me try playing a game that before would make me sick, which is any game where where the movement is not just you moving around, but instead you use a controller to move in the virtual space. I can't play any of those.
Yeah, that's hard.
And so I tried, and I was able to play for maybe 10 minutes, which is more than I was able to do in the Quest 2. But after that, I thought, I'm done. Like I can't do this again for a week. So no, it's just not worth it. So that $1,000 price point is
well, and especially because the Quest 3 has better resolution, like better optics, my understanding, than the Quest Pro. So then you got to really ask yourself, like, what are you getting from a hardware perspective from the Quest Pro? Anyways, it's kind of confusing. It really does feel like, Apple is going to probably do what Apple does, suck the oxygen out of the room. So they had to get this out. I mean, the timing is obviously timed with what Apple is expected to do on Monday. They got to kind of get that announcement out there before every article that's written about their new hardware is also added to it with, Meta's trying hard to captivate the audience they already have because Apple's on their heels and we know what Apple does. And that whole narrative, is going to happen. And so
I think too, keeping in mind, Apple has built out its Apple Arcade service. It's almost certainly been working with game developers in Apple Arcade and elsewhere. So it will be quick, I think, for the company to roll into having a pretty good library of content, which is, I think, what Meta currently has as the sort of, that's where it leads right now. So to see that shift, also Gurman has said on the show and in his blog posts or newsletters that a lot of the iPad apps are just going to run by default on the headset. They obviously aren't going to have, they're not going to be, VR experiences, but even having, that's the thing about the Quest 2 or the Quest. If I put that on and I wanted to then use Slack and, have 3 different screens open, for example, I mentioned earlier having to take the headset off, do all this stuff. I have to have it set up to where my computer can talk to it over the, there's so much involved with doing that in any of but yet they call it this, you can work and Apple could quickly have FaceTime working. So now you've got communication back and forth. They launched before this their scheduled FaceTime system where you could have different people. And we thought that was kind of competing with Zoom at the time. But now thinking about it this way, where suddenly work and play are all right there in that one headset and you're like switching back and forth between the two. They've got Meta's going to have to really, I think, step it up. If this headset sort of optically lives up to what we have heard about it. Because I think that's the big thing. But Meta's also more accessible because we were just complaining about $1,000
far less
for a
expensive.
Headset,
Yes, I know.
We've
right?
heard $3,000 for the first version of Apple's. So.
I mean, and maybe that's the Quest Pro. That's why it exists, or that's why they lean into work. Because if Apple's leaning into work, which I mean, I think that's a large part of what we expect their communication to be about it.
Half of it.
And it's a 3 times more expensive device. Then Meta can say, well, we do that too. And you pay a third of what you pay for Apple. And it does all these things. And we've got our great library of, all the games and other stuff along with it. So maybe the Meta Quest Pro doesn't make sense in the lineup yet because that comparison doesn't exist yet. But once it does, then it's like, okay. But I think it's still a long way to go to try and prove its reason for existing by comparison. I think most people don't buy the Pro. I think that's just the way it is right now. So interesting.
Plus, and the last, of course, Microsoft also has its fingers in the workspace pie. Their HoloLens has been pivoted into industry and work. And then we've seen Magic Leap also start to think about doing industry and work. So a lot of these companies are focusing on sort of work aspect. But what I think that Apple pushing it for work is going to be more from the individual level. So you as an individual can work and play, as opposed to where these other companies are going, hey, companies, buy these headsets and let your workers use them at work. It's more on I feel the Apple side. It's not, hey, companies, buy these.
It's more like
workers.
Personal productivity in a work environment.
Exactly.
Instead of sitting at my desk in my office and looking at a flat screen on the wall, I can have many screens that surround me and do so much more in my day-to-day.
And I would love to have that, but not if I feel trapped inside.
Totally. I totally agree. So, that would be neat. But if it comes at the expense of having to wear something hot and warm on my, get that hot face feeling and
then get
slightly woozy and everything, like it's just not worth it.
You're looking around and things feel a little off. It's like after you go on a roller coaster or go to an amusement park all day and you've been on roller coasters and then you lay down at night. And the whole
you
room
feel like you're still on the roller coaster. Right. You feel, that's the nightmare. You lay down and you feel like you're still in the office.
No! I can never escape work.
This is horrible. All right. So we've now shot that idea out of the water entirely.
Bye-bye.
There we go. That's the future.
Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. 30% of ACI learners are MSPs. Practice labs are the perfect place for your team to test and experiment before deploying new apps or updates without compromising your live system. Fill out the form at go.acilearning.com/twit for more information on a free 2-week training trial for your team.